That from Boston, this now from Washington. Former CBS News reporter Sharyl Attkisson dropping a bombshell, accusing someone in the government of hacking into both her home computer and her work computer and repeatedly accessing her files and then covering this tracks. This happening at the height of her investigation into several scandals involving the Obama administration. Attkisson details the claims in a book called Stonewalled, My Fight for Truth Against the Forces of Obstruction, Intimidation in Obama's Washington. Wow. Here now, Howie Kurtz, host of Media Buzz. And Howie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill.
You've read the book. You've reviewed it, too. You begin at a place called Big Mac because that was the McDonald's in Northern Virginia, first part of 2013. Start there. What happened?
Well, Big Mac is my name for Sharyl Attkisson's shadowy source, who was called in to look at her computers and was just flabbergasted at the extent of the intrusion, the sophistication by the hackers. They accessed files, they deleted some files, they looked at a file on Benghazi, and this started a whole chain of events in which it was very clear that she was being surveilled by somebody who knew what he or she was doing.
What was she working on at that point? What story or stories?
Well, she had been working on the Fast and Furious gun running scandal at the Justice Department. Then she was working on Benghazi. In fact, the Benghazi file was one of the ones that the intruders looked at. Now, there's the clear implication in Sharyl's book, which will be out in a few days, Stonewalled, that the administration might have known about this or been behind it. There's no proof of that. The Justice Department, which has, of course, conducted surveillance of certain journalists, denies looking for anything on her computers. But there's one scene in the book where she's on her iMac and suddenly all these files start deleting at hyperspeed. It's like something out of a science fiction movie. And one of the consultants that she was dealing with said, they, whoever they are trying to send you a message.
Wow, this is what she writes. The interlopers were able to call up my iMac and operate it remotely as if they were sitting in front of it. And true or not, she recorded some of that, Howard?
She took out her phone and took pictures of it because she wanted to have some sort of documentation of it. CBS hired a consultant, which concluded also about the multiple intrusions. But part of this book is not just about the hacking, and it's not just about her battles against the Obama administration on these various scandal stories, but her internal struggles with CBS, which is why she quit, which became less interested in some of these investigative pieces like Benghazi, like Fast and Furious and others. And it really says a lot about the state of investigative reporting on television today. But boy, reading this, at first I thought, well, maybe she got a little paranoid. She even talks about that. But you imagine having your most personal information on both of your computers. Somebody's looking at them. Somebody is deleting the login information to cover their tracks. That is scary stuff.
Yeah, CBS, with regard to that, they rarely said the story was not going to air. They just let it sit around and, quote, loved it until it began to stink like old fish. Did she offer you many comments about bias in media that she sees? Because what she would argue is that I'm investigating the Obama folks just as much as I investigated the Bush folks.
Yeah, I've talked to Sharyl in the past. She hasn't given interviews yet. She's starting next week on this book. But she says that there's an attempt to paint her as some kind of rabid right-winger who has something out for Obama. She won awards, including Emmys, for investigating stories during the Bush administration as well as the Obama administration. But she does say in the book that the CBS executives, some of them at least, seem much more resistant to stories that painted the Obama administration in a bad light.
We'll hope to get her on, too. We'll get her thoughts directly as well when that book comes out. Howard Kurtz, thank you. Washington, D.C. Thanks, Howie.